There was a moment inside royal circles that, if the whispers are true, did not look like a family reunion at all. It looked like a warning. Not a public speech, not a palace balcony appearance, not one of those carefully polished royal statements where every word has been weighed, softened, and wrapped in tradition. This was different. Because while the outside world was watching for one question, whether Prince Harry and Meghan Markle would return to the United Kingdom with Archie and Lilibet, another question was beginning to form behind palace doors. What would Prince William do if they did? And more importantly, what line would he refuse to cross? At first, the story sounded simple. Harry, Meghan and their children were reportedly being discussed in connection with a possible return to Britain, with the visit raising old questions about security, accommodation, family contact, and whether King Charles might finally see his California-based grandchildren again. Reuters reported that Harry hoped to bring the children to the UK, while security concerns remained central. But then came the detail that changed the temperature. Film cruise. That was the phrase that allegedly turned a private family matter into something far more explosive. Because for William, according to reports, this was no longer just about a brother coming home. It was about whether the monarchy itself was being pulled back into a story it had spent years trying to escape. And that is where the reported tension sharpened. William, it is claimed, did not simply disagree, he disengaged, he pulled back, he wanted nothing to do with it. And behind that silence, the palace was said to be facing a much darker possibility, that the future king was no longer willing to stand beside decisions he believed could damage the crown. For years, William has carried one role more than any other. He is not just a son, not just a brother. He is the next chapter of the institution. Every public appearance, every carefully controlled gesture, every moment beside Catherine and their children is part of a message. Stability continues. So imagine what it would take for someone in that position to reportedly say, in effect, if this is not stopped, I am out. That is not just frustration. That is a constitutional tremor, dressed up as a family argument. The alleged issue was not simply Harry walking through royal gates again. It was what might follow him in. Cameras, production teams, another carefully framed narrative, another version of palace life filtered through the Sussex lens. And for William, that may have touched the deepest wound in the entire royal rift. Because this family has already lived through interviews, documentaries, memoirs, accusations, counter-accusations, and years of headlines where private pain became public entertainment. Every attempt at distance was followed by another revelation. Every silence was interpreted. Every reunion was monetized by speculation before it even happened. So when reports suggested King Charles might be open to some form of welcome, William's alleged reaction was not hard to understand. Charles may have been thinking like a father. William, reportedly, was thinking like a future king. And those two instincts are not always compatible. That is the hidden fracture in this story. It is not only William versus Harry. It is not only Meghan versus the palace. It is a deeper argument about what the royal family is allowed to risk in the name of reconciliation. Charles is agging, he has faced health struggles, he may feel time pressing against him in ways the public cannot fully see. A grandfather may want to see his grandchildren, a father may want peace before it is too late. But William's position, according to insiders, is colder and more strategic. Peace with conditions is one thing. A royal return that turns into a media event is something else entirely. And then comes the twist. The reported fury was not just about Harry and Meghan arriving. It was about the possibility that the palace would be placed in a trap either way. If Charles refuses them, the monarchy looks cruel, distant and unforgiving. If Charles welcomes them, William fears the Sussexes could regain royal proximity without royal duty. And if cameras are anywhere near that visit, the crown risks becoming a backdrop in someone else's production. That may be the line William cannot accept. Because the monarchy survives on control. It does not speak often, but when it does, it wants the frame, the timing and the meaning. Harry and Meghan disrupted that. They proved that royal stories could be told from outside the palace and still dominate the world. To William, that may not feel like freedom. It may feel like a threat. And this is where the reported resignation language becomes so dramatic. Whether exact or exaggerated, the meaning is clear. William is allegedly signalling that there are limits to how far he will go in supporting a decision he believes undermines the future of the crown. He cannot resign from being born royal. But he can withdraw cooperation. He can refuse appearances. He can distance himself from palace strategy. He can make it known that certain decisions are not being made in his name. And in royal life, silence can be louder than a statement. The palace has survived scandals before. It has survived divorces, betrayals, interviews, and public storms that once looked impossible to contain. But this moment feels different because it is not about the past anymore. It is about succession. Charles is king today, William is the future, and Harry remains the brother who knows exactly where the walls are weakest. That is why this rumoured visit carries so much weight. It is not just a homecoming, it is a test. Can Charles rebuild a family bridge without weakening the institution? Can Harry return without reopening the war? Can Meghan step back into the UK without turning every doorway into a headline? And can William stand there, calm and silent, if he believes the entire moment is being staged for cameras? The answer, if these reports are accurate, may already be no. Because William's alleged message was not emotional begging, it was not a plea for sympathy, it was a boundary. Stop this or I step away. And that is what makes the story so dangerous for the palace, not because the public knows every detail. It does not because every rumour is confirmed, it is not. But because the idea itself is powerful. A king trying to heal. A son trying to protect the crown. A brother refusing to trust the brother who left. And somewhere in the middle, a possible return to the UK that could either soften years of division, or expose just how little of the royal family is still standing together. Because if William really has reached the point where he would rather disengage than participate, then the biggest announcement may not be about Harry and Meghan coming back. It may be about what the future king is no longer willing to pretend.